I'm guessing Matt would completely disagree with me on the Shepherd's Glass inbox, but our buddy John Wagner just finally figured out. It's good to see. We've coached him up here now in a few weeks. He's figured out the first rule of radio, Bill. Do you know the first rule of sports talk radio?
Come prepared.
No, come on. Come on. If that's your first rule of radio, we got big problems.
Wait, you guys say I don't come prepared every morning? I show up here with plenty of hot takes. We don't even get to half of them.
Exactly. So you're defining your own. Be memorable. That's the first rule of sports talk radio. Trey Dyson knows that very well. But Matt hit us up with, get this kid off the radio before he single-handedly shuts down 107.5. And then he just has MJ and the GOAT beside it. So John with his hot take that LeBron over MJ is memorable. People will know who John is when he comes in next week for the student
Throw
section
tomatoes at him. We could take a picture at him. And when you see him wandering down Gervais Street, you can throw a tomato at him for that awful hot
So you're
take.
saying maybe he needs a hard hat? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, there's
not
only
like the one that's in
There's
studio
only-
now. But
Well, I mean, last week it's helmets.
Uh-huh.
Today it's skull caps. So
This thing that Trey Dyson is wearing in the All South Federal Credit Union studios, it has been tweeted out at 107.5 at Tim Hill 107.5. If you need to see the picture of it, Bryon Jeffcoat has also tweeted out a picture of Trey in his glory today. Not only does he have, this is the catcher's skull cap, right?
That is correct.
Not only is he wearing that, he is also wearing shades indoors. My number one rule in life is never to wear sunglasses indoors. You are facing a window that has sunshine coming in, so I will give you a bit of a pass here. And also, the less of your face I have to look at, I feel like is better. So I'm good with that too.
his face for radio.
You know, you
Can
say
you explain the skull cap? Though?
well, it's playoff time in South Carolina high school baseball.
Okay.
And I'm a pretty good predictor of when foul balls are going to be shot into dugouts based on reading a hitter's swing and knowing our pitcher stuff. So I got this from one of our senior catchers. Most of the catchers nowadays, they wear the hockey mask.
Right.
So the days of the skull cap are gone.
Well, and you're not one of those old school guys who says, "Oh, you got to be old school in the whole thing." Like that's the smart move, right?
Well,
I've heard for catchers, like it feels a lot. It feels a lot more comfortable getting hit in the face with that hockey mask than it would the old school baseball deal.
Yes. However, I do like the skull cap for the simple fact that when they have the hockey mask, they don't discard the mask quite as much.
Because that's one of the best baseball moves ever, right? Pop fly goes up,
you throw
catcher
it,
rips the thing
yes,
off.
I love that. And so you don't see that nowadays. And I'm trying to teach my kids about toughness. I want those things flying.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
And so, but anyways, they don't do that. And I got the skull cap from a senior on the team, and he's the man. And he gave it to me. And hey.
Okay,
protects me during games, and it keeps me sharp when I'm off the field.
Bryon, if you need another visual, Bryon has already dubbed it the John Olerud cap.
I forgot about John.
So
I knew that looked familiar.
It's what Olerud had to wear in the field. He was the one guy wearing a helmet in the field. Bill, do you know the explanation why?
He had an injury, didn't he?
Right. Yeah. So I think he had
he had like a Randy Quaid type injury or a Cousin Eddie.
I'm not sure what happened when
one
somebody
side
turned
was
on.
This is just government plastic here, and
When someone turned on the microwave, he might have forgotten who he was for 30 seconds.
I feel like that's Trey Dyson, regardless. But yeah, the hat. Maybe.
No, but I think Olerud had some sort of serious brain aneurysm, and the doctor said if he got hit hard in the head, then it would not be good. And anyone who hears you on 107.5 The Game, Trey, would probably argue that at some point you had some sort of brain issue.
That's true. I guess you could say that's true until all of my prophecies come true. You never seem to get credit for those. That being said, that Masters pep talk up on YouTube was quite phenomenal.
Secretary, I think, gallops next week, right? Kentucky Derby's next week. Secretary's coming back.
That's right, baby. I played that for my kids last night. I didn't know it was up on the YouTube, and
now you know.
And so they were like, "Daddy, did you do that?" Like I was like, "That was right off the dome, kids." They were like, "That was pretty good."
What would be more entertaining? Trey Dyson coaching high schoolers and telling them about toughness, or Trey Dyson bedtime stories to his kids?
Great, equally entertaining, I'm guessing, and we'd all need a hard hat
bedtime
for
stories
all of them.
for sure.
We have a fun time, but in all seriousness, too, this does double as we do a lot of business with contractors, so I'm out on contracting jobs all the time.
Oh, well done.
Thank you, sir.
The greatest part about this is the pine tar residue that we have on the actual helmet here. Fantastic.
It's it keeps me engaged. We talk about Mike Leach. walking to
Tracking a raccoon.
yeah, so
Well done.
I was talking to Bryon. He was telling me, I like it, keeps you engaged, and
Okay.
It's playoffs, man.
I like the playoff, changing it up in the playoffs. How has that gone so far?
you know what? We were like the last seed,
Okay,
and we
you
went
made it.
and played the top seed Sumter the other day for our first game. We handled it pretty easily, 11-0.
Whoa! I'm sorry, you guys
11-0.
won 11-0.
Yeah, we won 11-0.
Is Matt Price not coaching up the pitchers there?
Oh, he
what's the
is.
deal?
But
So what I just got from that is the Trey Dyson hitters were coached up better than the Matt Price pitchers. Is that what I understand? Do I need to give you a little love on that? You're going to be too humble?
well,
All of a sudden, humble Trey Dyson's not willing to say it, but Trey Dyson coached up the hitters
Whoa, that phrase has never been uttered before.
Did you see the smile? Look at him. He knew that I was going to give him the love, so he just backed down. Trey Dyson's never backed down on anything. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, here it comes. I'm going to be.
well, I mean, thank you. Yes, the hitters are certainly well prepared. They've been prepared all year. But it was a great game. Matt Price, one of the best Gamecocks of all time. It's just personnel.
I see.
We got some good players, and honestly, the baseball around here: Lexington, River Bluff, Dutch Fork, Spring Valley. Some really good baseball around
You're
here.
just calling out the Sumter area and saying they just can't compare.
Well, on
That's
Tuesday night,
at
that
Trey
would have been
Dyson
true.
on Twitter.
Tuesday night, that would have been a correct statement. Yes, but
Okay, let's clear up some of this stuff. The YouTube video you're referencing is where our podcasts are now. So if you go to 1075thegame.com, there's a direct link to YouTube. You can catch whatever we do here, the best of will pop up on the podcast page, and your pep talk is on there. Gamecock baseball has changed significantly. The conversation is much different than the last one we had with you guys. Want to get to that in a minute. First, wanted to get to a couple of phone calls. Guys have been waiting very patiently on the Love Chevrolet phone lines. Matthew, for instance, wants to weigh in on today's poll question, asking you what's your ideal sports moment in honor of LeBron James's buzzer beater there. You got a walk-off home run option. You got a game-winning touchdown in football and a birdie putt on the 72nd hole in golf. Matthew, what do you think, sir?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Love the show. We got to give golf a little bit of love here. That putt to win it all on the 72nd hole, that's the culmination of your career when you go in and you make that putt and the whole crowd screaming for you. I mean, I'm kind of imagining at least the players, maybe a Masters championship here. So give it a little bit of love, guys. That's a big one.
Thank you, Matthew. Trey, would you like to give your
I would.
hot take on that with the Masters music behind you?
the problem with that is the birdie putt sinks. The crowd goes wild. Your caddy runs over and jumps into your arms. The problem is, are you messing up the green with your celebration or walking into the line of the guy who hasn't made his putt yet? The unwritten rules of golf can sometimes ruin the joy of winning.
Terrible. Come on,
also,
man.
Trey doesn't seem to grasp the concept of a birdie putt to walk off. Like,
Right.
there's nobody else to putt. There's no,
They
there's
got
no
out of
line to
your
walk
way.
through.
Yes,
There's no
I
other
know.
hole to play.
You're
after
playing
that.
twinkle toes on the green, trying not to make divots on there. I don't care. It's just
76
ingrained in you.
I think-
72nd hole, man.
But I think Trey would agree with me on this. That again, you're having to share the spotlight with your caddy. That guy's in the way. He's coming, like you said. He's running over. Someone's jumping into someone's arms. Like,
Now, if you guys did the Jordan Spieth, the walk-off when he chipped in out of the sand with Hartford last year, I think, where they go with the pretty athletic chest bump, especially for golf guys,
Yeah.
then I'm with you. But that's the atypical golf celebration. It's usually the Tiger Woods spazzy hand thing.
Yeah, it's like the weird high fives.
Yeah, they're not sure what angle you're going with.
I'll
the
tell
whole
you
thing.
something I always look forward to, and my wife would agree, is I always want to see how the wife, what she's wearing. I'm into fashion,
Where are
that
we
kind of
going
stuff.
with this?
you're into fashion?
Of course. I mean, I want to see golfers have the most amazing life. I think they get to play golf every day, and I always like to look at
Get to play golf every. Not all of them are Tiger Woods making millions upon millions of dollars. Like, if they miss the cut, they got to go home and like, sorry, little Billy, you don't eat this week.
I just remember. Well, I just remember the Ricky Fowler. Like, I'd never seen his girlfriend or wife yet, and I was
I think
pleasantly
it's his girlfriend.
surprised.
I think it's a girl. I think Ricky
And then they
Fowler's
started
playing the
criticizing
field.
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, it was. Just,
I think he just.
I know there's people driving in their car like saying, "Yeah, I agree with Trey. Yeah, I look for that too."
See, I think most people
Nope.
Well done, Brian.
Dilly.
Jeremy does agree with what Matthew was saying, though, in the Shepherd's Glass inbox. Jeremy says the birdie putt on the 72nd hole at Augusta, no doubt. If it was a walk-off in Game 7, then I would take that. Okay, that does change it a little bit. The
Joe
walk-off
Carter?
home run, the Joe Carter-esque deal. I'm
Yeah,
with you. We got
it
a
was
couple of
weird how-
former baseball guys in studio. Where do you guys weigh in on the poll question? Ideal sports moment. Walk-off home run, game-winning touchdown catch, buzzer beater in basketball, or the birdie putt on the 72nd hole. Bryon, let's let you go first.
Walk off.
Okay. And has it happened? Did it happen? How many multiple times did it happen, actually?
Once.
One time.
One time. Not a home run, though.
I was gonna say
So it wasn't a walk-off home run.
Okay, so you never got the walk-off home run in
No,
the
never
entire
did
baseball career that went through the minor leagues.
Nope. Not even
Interesting.
rec ball.
Okay. Trey, what about you, sir?
I would say the walk-off, obviously.
Mhm.
But now I've never hit a walk-off home run either.
I like how you put it in the present tense / future. I've never done it.
No, wait.
I feel like there's
Still
a
alumni
yet.
games left.
Right.
What I feel like we're dealing with here too is like the godfather of the bat flip for South Carolina baseball. Is that, I mean, that's basically like the bat flip was the South Carolina bat flip was started because of Trey Dyson, right? Like you're on board with me on the celebration, right? Like I mean that's
the celebration is key. There was a phenomenal celebration, I think, from Houston. Did you see that one where
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy basically had the bat
Carried
up
his
in the
bat
air
all
the
the
whole
way.
time?
Yeah, check it out on the social media. If you're into that thing on Twitter, just go to @Houston Baseball. I think you can see that.
I do have a good Trey story in when we were at Kentucky playing and he hits a home run and his but his celebration,
Mm-hmm.
which he wasn't trying to celebrate. At this point, he was wearing glasses.
Right.
So, you know,
Like regular eyeglasses.
Regular
Not-
eyeglasses,
Not the
not the-
obnoxious sunglasses he's currently sporting
Exactly.
inside.
So Trey's up there, you know, he's going with one of his awkward stances
Mhm.
at that moment in his career, and he unloads, hits a bomb, and his glasses fall down like on his nose. So he kind of like pushes them up to see the ball, and in doing that, it kind of looked like, did he just show this guy up?
Yeah.
So in his next at bat, he gets hit.
Yeah.
So, you know, even when he's not celebrating, you know, people just want him to wear it.
Maybe the only guy in the history of baseball who had to push the glasses up after a home run and was accused of showing
And got-
the other
and got
team up and
beamed?
got
Did you-
beamed for it.
Did you know that? Like, as you're going back up there, you're like, I'm taking one of the chops
No
this time.
clue. It's like I wasn't trying to do that. You know,
But-
usually when you do, you're like, all right, I'm expecting to get hit because, yeah, I did show him up.
But did it also take him a minute to get around the bases after that?
I think it was a minute just to get where he was. You know, the glasses down. I
Right.
can't see. Where am I going? Oh, yeah, there's first. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
it
what's
looked
he
pretty
doing?
good.
He's showing me up. Oh, I'm going to get him.
Maybe that'll be the next thing in baseball. You know how I feel like who is it? Russell Westbrook and company, Dwayne Wade have gone more the preppy look and like the fake
Right.
glasses. Maybe that'll be the thing in baseball: the fake eyeglasses and then the push up afterwards. Bryce Harper will start doing that. Maybe.
It was a great move, you know?
That was a great move.
That's my
humble Trey Dyson, by the way.
5-year-old, he's 6. He turned 6 over the weekend. He scored a goal in soccer, and he went running to the flag. I mean, this is 5 and 6-year-old soccer, and they got the little flag stick in the corner. Whenever it started smacking it back and right and
that's
left, like I was
awesome.
like, man, come on. I was afraid he was going to go over and do an Odell Beckham Jr. and like crawl to it and lift his leg. And I was like, as I'm watching him go to the flag, like I'm having
Don't
like
do it.
everything goes into complete slow mo, and I'm like, please don't do what I think you're about to do. Trey and I are kindred spirits on the celebrations,
Yeah,
though.
I
think
love it, man.
Fortunately, Bryon and I are here to keep this thing on the rails this morning. We will get into some Gamecock baseball talk. Obviously, a much more positive conversation this week than last, and you guys' energy is just completely different because of it. I can tell already. We'll also get your guys' thoughts on the NFL draft tonight. Trey, I know you're always thinking outside the box, so I can't wait to hear your theories about what the Cleveland Browns should do. That's coming up as we roll on this morning. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game. Heath Klein, 107.5 The Game. Broadcasting live, opening night of the NFL Draft. Warm up with Heath from 4 to 7. Game time live in the Vista. Come out for your chance to win prizes. So much more. Twin Peaks, 600 Gervais Street down in the Vista. Okay, gentlemen, that leads us to what do you expect to happen tonight? Trey Dyson gets the first pick in the NFL Draft, and he selects.
Marcus Lattimore.
Oh boy, should have known something goofy like that was coming.
Yeah,
Do you even know who has the first pick?
The Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all I keep hearing is all these experts saying people should trade down. They should trade down. My team should trade down, which tells me that if I was a GM, I'd be trading up all over the place.
There's that outside the box thinking.
You know, everyone thinks that that's so smart. To me, it's like I bet something good happens out of this class. Typically, the contrarian view somehow always ends up working.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I honestly,
Who would you draft with the first pick?
I
You got
honestly
nothing?
don't know.
You're not
care.
even a draft guy, are you?
Okay.
No, I don't.
Jordan
care.
and I frown upon you.
Yeah, I don't really care about
This
that.
is where we differ in our.
I would pick like someone like y'all. I heard y'all talking about Lamar Jackson. To me, I haven't seen anyone be able to do what he does on a football field from an athletic standpoint. That's the type of stuff I like.
Trey's the guy who would show up and pick the guard we talked about.
Right.
The right
Offensive
guard. Yeah.
for
No, I
Notre
would
Dame.
have picked. I'd
He'd be
pick the best
booed.
athlete.
Okay.
I'd pick the best athlete.
Well, the best athlete is Saquon Barkley. Lamar Jackson may be behind him.
Really?
But the numbers are ridiculous.
Okay.
Bryon, you with us? You going with Saquon Barkley, number 1 overall?
I was just proud Trey didn't say like a kicker.
Okay, that's a
Right?
good point.
You know, sitting here
Like,
like
that's
he
what
did-
you got to have. That's the difference.
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
know how much. Oh, yeah, but he wouldn't go kicker, right? Or especially punter.
He would have done. Have y'all
I
seen
mean, the
draft?
Browns might go kicker.
Have y'all seen Draft Day with
Yes.
Kevin Costner?
Oh, yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Like somehow he trades away all the picks and then gets them back and gets the guys he wanted. And, but we say
Is that a movie?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Cool.
Kevin
Draft Day?
Costner?
Kevin Costner doesn't actually run the Browns. Might do better running the Browns.
Okay.
It's hard to do worse.
But who would you take?
Quarterback is probably where I'd go. And
Yep. Who?
I
Who's
like
your
the
guy?
kid from Wyoming, Josh Allen.
Okay.
I think he would be kind of fits the prototypical style, quarterback, somebody you can build with.
See, we've kind of talked about it. I don't think unless it's a surefire guy, and there's few of those that come along at the quarterback. Peyton Manning, maybe Andrew Luck. I think Cam Newton would be that guy. But, I mean, you see so many quarterbacks go number 1, and Jordan and I have had this discussion, and I don't know where Tim fell on this as we were kind of going through draft picks in terms of where you take quarterbacks. I wouldn't take a quarterback with the first pick unless it's just like I don't think any of these guys tonight. I think I told Tim on Tuesday, these 5 quarterbacks, I'll take the under on 4.5 Pro Bowls combined. I just don't see one of these guys. I don't see the 5 of them combining for more than 4.5 for 5 Pro Bowls combined throughout their career.
The good thing is we'll have this up on YouTube later, so we can always go back to check if
True.
you're right
That's
in
right.
about
The
10 years.
record-
See if
the record will
It's
be
on
there.
record.
I would say that the best thing that happened to the quarterbacks for this year's draft was Carson Wentz.
No doubt. Well, for Josh Allen, particularly out of Wyoming.
I mean, look back in the day, was like Ben Roethlisberger,
Flacco. Flacco's from Delaware.
Brady.
Tony Romo.
Brady was from Michigan, buddy.
Yeah, but
Low draft
look
pick,
at the
chip on the shoulder, and that whole thing.
right. So I mean, those
Heard
are
it a
guys
million
that
times.
you could say like sitting here today, they're probably not going to play much, and then the guys that you think are going to play all the time, they never amount to anything. So.
Okay, let's translate that to you guys' minor league baseball career. Who was the biggest bust that you played with? And then who was a guy that worked his way all the way up that you played with?
Roscoe Crosby.
Biggest bust that you played with?
Hey, man, he got $1 million, remember, for the
sure.
Clemson? Pretty good receiver.
But he went from Union County to professional baseball, right? And then came back and played receiver for Clemson. Is that
Right.
how it
So,
went?
I mean, I guess that's
Was
a
he an
bust.
outfielder?
He's an outfielder. He had obviously tremendous athleticism, but
Couldn't hit?
Well, he couldn't.
what it
he
came down
couldn't
to?
really, play. He wasn't that great at baseball, but it didn't really look like he tried either. I think his heart was in football. So
Was he your age? He's a little bit younger.
He's younger than me.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
did
there's a lot of guys that don't make it. I mean, it's a bust. When you look at a first rounder, you'd pull up a spring training, you knew who the first rounder was. They'd hop out of back in the day. It was like 24-inch rims and Hummers, and it's like, yep, there's the first rounder. And I'm riding the bus, of course. And so
we're walking
The city bus.
right?
Yeah, we're walking to
Where's my
practice.
agent? Oh,
Riding
I don't have one.
riding up on your bicycle with the little bell, ding ding.
That's right,
I'm
yeah.
here. There's my bag in the
I'd
back.
be like,
like-
Trey, walk beside me and just pretend you're my agent.
Yeah, exactly. It's like 6 a.m. Like all the poor kids are walking to the field or to the complex, and all the rich kids are like getting pickups from their agent and whatnot. And it's like you just feel like you've got no chance once you get into the locker room.
But a guy I remember in the Braves organization was Adam LaRoche. Okay, so Adam wasn't the first rounder. I think he was a late round pick. Couldn't tell you where he was, but he was a guy that every year he put up the numbers, and he made it hard for them not to say, hey, he's going to keep moving, and the way he handled himself. And so that would be a guy that made the most of his opportunity for sure.
Ended up playing 12 seasons in the big leagues, trying to get his exact draft status here. Get that for you in just a second. So, is there a specific bust that stands out to you on the other side of that thing?
Kelly Johnson?
Kelly made it. But there was a catcher, the Braves. He was named Jose Salas. Jose was like, everything about him, you would say this guy's going to make it. And they gave him a ton of money, millions of dollars. And I remember playing with him, and I'm like scratching my head, like, this guy can't put it together. Never made it. Never made anything. I don't think he made it out of A-ball. And so, I mean, he's a guy I would say, man, he busted. But then I think he also was, he'd tell me he was like 18, but I think he was 28.
Right. 21st round is where Adam LaRoche ended up
There you
getting
go.
drafted back in the day. So I would say that's kind of like a middle round draft pick, right? In the way that baseball goes.
I think that
40
you'll
some
see a
rounds.
lot more guys who aren't, your first rounders that make it. There's a lot more guys. And I think it goes back to kind of what we talk about all the time is, sometimes when you're put on this pedestal and you're told that you're really good, you kind of back off on pushing yourself to get there. I mean, there's elite players that continue to drive themselves. And then you got guys who come in and say they just go to work every day, and all of a sudden, opportunities present themselves and they start to produce, and you can't turn them away.
Sure. I think it was the last Hall of Fame class or the last couple, you've had Mike Piazza, one of the lowest draft picks of all time, and you've had Chipper Jones, the first number 1 draft pick overall, I think, to get in the Hall of Fame.
I mean,
So you
Chipper's
have them on
that
both
guy
sides.
for me that's always he's always been like he was their top pick, top prospect, and he delivered.
Right.
Right,
Always lived up to it.
He lived up to it, and which he attributes a lot to his mom, which I was interested to hear that.
Do y'all put guys like Kerry Wood? I mean, he got there so quickly, but then kind of flamed out so quickly. And I'm trying to think of a few other pitchers. There was
Mark
a kid,
Pryor.
Mark Pryor.
Right.
That was the other one I was trying to think of from Southern Cal.
Dominated on both ends, offensively and defensively in college. And then to me, though, those are injury deals, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time. And
Okay,
You
but I
know
mean that's
that Mark-
still
Mark-
like Greg Oden. Greg Oden's got to be up there as the number 1 pick, and because of injuries, just never.
But
never
again,
produced.
you hold that against them differently than guys who just didn't have it, right? Who
Right.
just couldn't put it together, and you don't have a good excuse. To me, that's a good excuse.
Like, because
right?
we were on the verge going into last year, into the last NFL season, of putting Clowney in that narrative, right?
Right. Sure.
But that was because of injury, not production, but because of injury.
And now that narrative has completely changed after a Pro Bowl, just like the story around Gamecock baseball completely changed this week. This time last week, we're talking about Carolina struggling to finish 500 and at 20-17, having lost to Presbyterian. Now, 4 straight wins later and 40 runs later, it's a completely different story. I'm hoping you guys have an explanation for how this happened or what we can expect moving forward. We'll get the expert opinions of Gamecock baseball greats Bryon Jeffcoat and Trey Dyson on Gamecock baseball. When we come back, it's the early game. Last week, we were talking about coming off a Presbyterian loss and coming off a disappointing performance at Arkansas, where you had a chance to steal a series on the road against one of the best teams in the country and got one guy to third base. So, with Gamecock baseball greats Bryon Jeffcoat and Trey Dyson here in the All-South Federal Credit Union studios, we're hoping you guys can explain exactly what has happened. Trey, surely a pitching machine is not the difference. Mark Kingston talking about seeing his hitters' swings get a little long in that 8-game road swing and not being able to train how they are used to training. So after the Presbyterian game, 2 hard practices later, now we've seen his team average 10 runs in the last 4 games after scoring a combined 7 in the previous 4 games.
Yeah.
You're going all pitching machine?
I'm going to say that's certainly from a psychological mindset. Yes, it certainly helped them. And he even said, in the beginning of the rounds with the pitching machine, they couldn't get to the pitching machine. They weren't quick enough to even hit the pitching machine, which is, a couple of factors. Number one, a pitching machine is typically dirty to begin with because you don't have an actual pitcher. That's baseball speak, Bill. So you don't have – it's hard to get your timing with a guy, inserting a ball into the pitching machine, and then it kind of comes out with different spin every time. So it's kind of nasty to begin with, and then you got the velocity to contend with. So it's great practice. It's psychological. It's working for them. So I don't know if y'all heard, but, y'all broke some news on this this very station where Tommy Moody was – or at least Jay Phillips offered – Tommy Moody's services to haul the pitching machine to Vanderbilt. So
that was nice of Jay to do that for Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy, I think, was very appreciative too. Glad to do it.
he was.
Yeah.
He's a team player.
He is.
Bryon, what do you think? What have you seen different in the last 4 games that we had not seen the previous 4 games?
Well, of course, I think it goes back to our offense. Our offense, prior to these 4 games, was terrible. I mean, we just weren't having the at-bats in the right moment that were getting the job done. I think the Presbyterian loss probably brought on some coaches that was some hard talks
Mm-hmm.
with the team. Like you can't lose these games, and we got to figure this thing out. I think there was also talks of, hey, there's still time, right? Not a lot, but there's still time to get back in this. A lot of times when you get a team that has the prestige of LSU and they come to town. Now I'll say this: LSU, they're not the LSU that we see. I'm not taking the wins away as discrediting that, but it was great because if they come in and they're dominating, it's going to put us even more in a hole. Our guys jump out and you beat them 11-0. It's the psyche thing that starts to happen with the players. And I said this last week. When you see the chemistry start to come back in a team, it comes because you start winning. It's the momentum that all of a sudden at the right moment starts to say, guys start to believe that they can do it. And then hey, I'm a better teammate when I'm that way because, hey, we're all hitting. We're all doing well. And I think that's kind of what we saw. I would have liked to attribute it to the alumni. But
I want to ask you about that. One, it was alumni weekend last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And how did it go? How did it for you guys? But two, I brought this up on Monday, and Tim and I kind of agreed. I said this baseball team reminds me a little bit of the basketball team in that one of the best performances from the basketball team came when Sindarius Thornwell and P.J. Dozier and the guys from last year's class, Dwayne Notice, came back. Mm-hmm. And there was frustration on you two's part. You could tell last week when y'all showed up that it's y'all's pro. Y'all started the pro. You were part of the program, and it's still y'all's program. How was alumni weekend, and was there anything with former players coming back where maybe you saw a couple players were like, hey, this is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
We started this thing, and you better pick it up or else we're sending Trey Dyson to have a word with you. And it's hard hat.
That's right, exactly. I think Alumni Week the Saturday game went very well. I mean, we had a lot of guys coming back, which is always good to see, and see their families. We all definitely look a lot different these days, but you still get the stories that come out of it. I don't think we have the same access like the former players on the basketball team. I mean, some of these guys just finished playing. So, example would be if all of a sudden Jackie Bradley shows up. It's like, oh wow, it's Jackie, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like Bryon Jeffcoat. Who's that, right? And that's fine. But I think part of us having our weekend, I believe the coaches would use that to say, there's guys out there who played here, who helped build this thing. You guys aren't doing your part. Let's get this thing. Let's pick it up. I'm sure there was some talks about that, but
and the kids are different nowadays. I mean, obviously, I feel really old, but it's true. We would make fun of each other all the time, and we could take a joke. I would love for these kids to have been in our locker room, like for a day or two, just to see how it all went down.
Well, you can't talk about what all went down in the locker room, right? I mean, it's the locker room, and it's sacred, and those are important things when you're building chemistry with the team. And sometimes things, there happen feuds between players, and it doesn't always. You don't see that on the outside, and you shouldn't, right? But those happen in locker rooms, but that builds, that relationship between each other.
I'm a little confused. Are you trying to tell me, Trey, that doesn't happen now, or it's just a different, more sensitive environment socially, and that's translated into the locker room?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, like if someone made an error or something like that, or if an outfielder would miss a ball in a game, we'd make fun of them right there on the spot. Like, nice route, Magellan, or hey, put a glove on your foot or something like that.
Yeah,
but it's also easier to do when you're winning.
Exactly. I think that's the point.
But that's why we won.
It's kind of like what we're seeing right now with the Philadelphia 76ers. Like all of a sudden that franchise, and we saw this with Golden State when they first started winning, when you get the new team that's coming up, it's always because they're young and they're carefree and they're cohesive and then all of a sudden Golden State's winning and Draymond Green's over here doing his own thing and Kevin Durant's showing up. I think it's totally different, and I do agree. We don't know. Like you said, the locker room's sacred. Now, I don't know how much y'all know about what's going on in that locker room when we don't see them on the field.
Well, let's ask this. How much did former players in your era who were 10, 15, 20 years younger than you know about what you guys were doing in the locker room?
Probably not a lot. I mean, they would
because you mentioned it's sacred.
Yeah, I mean, there were just, again, it was our locker room that we took, a lot of fun times and things that, we were throwing. I'll never forget, one moment, it didn't work, but we were. It was 2000, and we were playing Louisiana Lafayette. It was series tied 1-1, and I'll never forget it.
Winner
We're all in
goes to the
locker
College
room.
World Series.
That's right.
For the first time ever
we're
for
going
Ray
to win
Tanner.
this game. We were so confident. In fact, we took all the bats and threw them in the middle of the locker room and just like piled them on and just. We were just hitting stuff we shouldn't have, broke stuff we shouldn't have, and then we like single file behind each other, walk out like this is who we are, and then they throw this 50-mile-an-hour left-hander, and we're all like, man, we're like softball hitters, like we can't hit it.
Right.
It's like pop up,
yeah.
pop
And
up.
so we lose by
And
one
then,
run.
Then of course the stands are like, they're just ripping you, like
Exactly.
hit the ball, stay back, keep your head in there.
All of a sudden,
we're like,
there was
we're trying. I promise, we're really trying.
7,500 coaches in the stands trying to tell you.
Listen, Trey pulled every antic out of his out of his
Bag of
hat.
tricks.
I mean, he it was everything he could do, and it didn't get it done.
Well, and
so.
like going back to the fans, like nowadays you get fan criticism. It's like they want to, people want to cry. Hey, we need your support. We shouldn't deserve this type of outcry from you. No, when we were doing terrible, I'd be like, guys, I am very sorry right now for the performance we're putting on today. You have every right to be angry and upset, and they respected that.
Bryon's quieter than you. How would Trey Dyson, the player, handle Twitter today?
I think I'd have some
Like you
pretty
just
good
said,
followers.
you said, well, no, because you just said like you would apologize to the fans, basically, sorry, we stink right now, and
Right.
we're
I think I'd have
like,
a
how
huge
would Trey
following.
Dyson, the player today, handle Twitter? Because it's interesting. Back then, y'all got ribbed at the game. Fans weren't happy with, but then you go home, you didn't have Facebook or social media for
Right.
angry guy in the stands to yell at you and say you bum. How would Trey Dyson handle that today?
Yeah, so I would have turned my social media off to start the season,
That's a
right?
smart
Because
move.
it's like, hey, no distractions.
Right.
Trey's like, the following is starting, and here we go. And I'm gonna be like, he would be the guy to go up to the plate today and do a selfie.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
with the umpire,
with the catcher and the umpire.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because
Hey guys,
but,
at Trey Dyson.
but hey, but not for me, for the team. Honestly, I mean,
At Gamecock baseball.
yeah, we'd have people from California showing up to see what we were going to do.
Real quick, who was the oldest alumni who showed up last week? Do you remember? Do you know?
Man, there was some old guys. I couldn't
Experienced.
tell you. I mean, I don't remember their name, but I mean, they were. But I had a great time. Like guys like Art Finley, Jeff Churchich.
Yeah, those guys took a lot of pride in the program
Mark
back
Warner.
in the mid '80s for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at what they were doing then, I mean, Carolina baseball didn't just start when, Coach Tanner got here. I mean, he helped to get it back into where it was, but there was a lot of great players that came through and built the program, and those guys coming out, and it's funny, in the midst of the game, we're up 8-0, right? And we're all in the pavilion, and we're just sitting there eating peanuts and
Talking about Saturday, right?
Talking about the old days, man.
Right.
These guys, they don't understand what's going on, and blah blah blah, right? And so there's a ball hit sort of in the gap, but you can knock. This is when you, as an outfielder, you don't give them an edge, right? Don't give them second base if the guy's turning hard, and they just didn't get to the ball fast enough, and so we're kind of starting to heckle them, like our own player, like, come on, you got it. And I just love that, right? That's just who we are.
Yeah, I remember my first day at the new Carolina Stadium. I know we got to go, but I of course, people don't know who you are, and no one knows who I am. But I walked there, and the
If
guy
you wore
over
this helmet around there,
Yeah,
everywhere,
you do
it's
that,
nice,
go
no?
I got over
Trey.
the dugout or the bullpen out there in left center to rattle the opposing pitcher prior to the very first game in Carolina Stadium, and
Classic.
quickly was escorted away. And that was my first experience in the new stadium.
Classic. He's one and only Trey Dyson, the former Gamecock baseball great. Joined by Bryon Jeffcoat. We'll have the dramatic conclusion of the program. You guys still didn't break it down for me, the difference in those 4 games where they score 7 runs and 4 games where they score 40. Maybe we can actually get a couple of explanations or attempts anyway when we come back. Also, final poll results and a chance to win $1,000. It's the early game. It's 107.5. Join us today from 1 to 4, halftime show. Kicking off the Summer of Fun giveaway. First chance to register in person for a big green egg from 107.5 The Game out at Griffin Pools and Spas right near the Lake Murray Dam. Right before the break, Bryon asked you, all right, what's the explanation? 7 runs in 4 games and then 40 runs in 4 games. How did Gamecock baseball turn it around?
Well, I think it was here's what I look at. I feel like there's some players who have started to step up, and that guy being, or those guys being like Justin Rowe. I really, really feel like he was the guy that kind of was a catalyst to starting LT Tolbert.
Well, that's your middle of the infield bias
I'm a
showing
guy that's
right
going
there.
to do
Love
that.
it.
Jonah Bride, what Jonah's done is showed up every day, played great defense. Here's also some dynamics to it. We've changed the starting rotation, and I actually like that. I mean, you see that some of these moves that I feel like our coaches have made, whether they would say, hey, we just had to do something different, it's to me, I've really liked it. I mean, whether they said, hey, this is exactly the right move, but I like putting Chapman as the Friday guy and, having Hill come back the next day. But anyway, I think all of it is there's some leadership building up. I see that on the field. I like the defense, what they're playing, and Cortez is coming around.
No doubt.
So, hey, that's my breakdown.
Cortez finally painting the Picasso that we all knew would happen.
All right, that led us to the simple question earlier this week. I need a yes or no answer from both of you. Bryon, you're first. Will Gamecock baseball make the NCAA tournament?
Yes.
Trey?
Yes.
Okay.
Shocked at
I
that
know you
answer.
still want more. 24-17 will never be good enough for Gamecock baseball. That's where this team sits right now, but a lot in front of them heading to Vanderbilt this weekend. Thank you for all the insight, gentlemen. Those are our former Gamecock baseball players, Bryon Jeffcoat and Trey Dyson. Jeffcoat and Jeffcoat, where you can go online, jeffcoatandjeffcoat.com, to see what they're doing professionally.